Dear listeners, thank you so much for waiting patiently for this episode 205. It's been a tough week, but fortunately everything went in a good direction and I was finally able to record my podcast episode with my friend Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown is the assistant winemaker at Sandridge Barton. In my opinion, one of the wineries that are really like pioneering sustainability, sustainable farming, winemaking, and offering something I would call even a blueprint for how wineries should act in not only the English wine industry, but in the wine industry in general. The combination of sustainable farming, of wine tourism, of zero waste approach, of just like the combination of local partnerships, of tastings, of events is just unique, not only in the area, I would even say there's only few brands in England who manage to do so. And this is why I was really looking forward to the episode. And we had to postpone it from Thursday to Friday. But right now you can really look forward to a very, very interesting and fun episode with Charlie Brown. So right now, enjoy. Welcome to the Pinot and Pixel podcast episode number 205. Today I'm here with Charlie Brown, one of the winemakers at Sandridge Barton, a winery that, in my opinion, redefined wine and wine tourism, winemaking and sustainability, also in England, not only in England. Thank you for your time. It took us a while.
Yeah, sorry. I am sorry for what this
No worries. I'm so happy that you're finally on this podcast. We want to talk about winemaking, sustainability, your approach, and the story. Give us a brief background on Sandridge Barton.
So Sandridge Barton's a very old estate that's based in Stoke Gabriel in Devon, just down from the River Dart, down from Totnes, sorry. And it planted its first vineyard in 2009 and then planted successive vineyards after that in 2010 and 2011. And then we've planted another 2 more in 2020 and 2021. So we bring our total hectares up to 13 hectares, so like 40 acres. We used to get the wines made over at Sharpam. So Sharpam was where Sharpam used to buy all the grapes from Sandridge, basically. And then we've now brought Sharpam over to Sandridge Barton, and now Sandridge Barton's our main flagship wine brand, but we still make the Sharpam wines.
And the history of Sharpam started in 1981.
So yes, Sharpam was planted in 1981 by a bit of a maverick. His name was Maurice Ash. A big Francophile who loved everything about France. So when he had the Sharpam estate, he decided to go full hog, plant a vineyard and start making cheese. Both of those businesses are still going today under the Sharpam names. So we've got Sharpam cheese and then Sharpam wine. Both now coincidentally on the other side of the river, but it's nice to see that its legacy is carried on today. He was probably at the forefront of English wine at that point. There's obviously some older vineyards, but his main driving factor was still wines, and he didn't really go down the sparkling wine route, so he wanted to produce still wines. Didn't really want to get into the German hybrids, so decided to pursue the French varieties. So that's why we've got Madeleine Angevine as like our flagship variety that we're probably most well renowned for.
It's a quite rare variety. We'll talk about that in a second. Yeah. Can you talk about your general approach or philosophy on winemaking at Sandridge Barton?
So because of how old we are, we've always had like a winemaking history. And I think over those like 52, 53 years now that we're at, it's changed quite dramatically. And like we've used to just filter our wines with a little bit of residual sugar just to balance out that high acidity. But now we've come into like a completely natural ferment, minimal fining, minimum filtering. With some of the styles that do need it, we'll go for it. But like our main philosophy is just to be as hands off as we can and just try and let the fruit do the talking. That's probably our key driver, is just press gently, let the wine see some oxygen, ferment naturally, age on gross or fine lees over winter and then see where the wine's sitting at. We're not going to start chucking in random bits and bobs just because that's the recipe. If a wine needs it, then we'll discuss it and go through it. But ultimately, our end goal is to not add anything that we don't have to, and play some banging tunes along the way and have good energy, which I think really starts to show through in the wines. So keep morale high, play big music, have a good laugh times, and just try and let the fruit do the talking.
What made the transition? So what was the reason for the transition from like traditional winemaking to your current approach?
I think just experiencing wines from elsewhere, like drinking various bottles from different producers from throughout the world. I was fortunate enough to work in the Southern Hemisphere in both Australia and South Africa, working for biodynamic producers and producers that really care about how the fermentation goes, and they are massive advocates of natural ferments. So then when I've come back from those trips, then we've just tried to reintroduce some of those practices into our winemaking philosophy. And so far, so good. We haven't really had any struggled ferments. The ferments have been really clean, and like there's been no drawbacks every time we taste through our base wines post fermentation in like December and then onwards in March. Then every parcel of fruit is completely different, every tank's very different, and it just adds loads of complexity into our final product. So it's one of those ones where we trialed it, it was a success, we really like it, and yeah, we just would never go back. But traditionally, like obviously that's what we used to make, so that was the methods that we used to use. So we've always tried to pay homage to the wines that we used to make, but now we've just changed our fermentation and production methods a little bit to keep up with what people expect. I think drinkers and eaters now are a lot more focused on provenance and production methods. So if they ask you what's in the final product, then we want to be able to give an honest answer. And I want to know everything that's going in that final product, whether it's bentonite or anything, and why we put it in. So if we don't have to use them, we won't.
Mm-hmm. I really love that approach.
Yeah.
You already mentioned that you moved from Sharpam to Sandridge Barton. You built up a whole new winery. What has changed then since then, especially in winemaking?
We've introduced 2 new ranges. So when we came over to Sandridge Barton, where we built a new winery and retail sector and stuff, then we only had the Sharpam brand at that point. Our key driving force at that point was to try and maintain that Sharpam brand, to not lose a foothold in a competitive industry that we had built ourselves up. So like people were synonymous with the Sharpam brand, but we had ambitions to elevate our Sandridge Barton brand into still wines that from great varieties that we have on the estate. Not so much like higher, what do they call it? Not more prestigious wines, but just like wines that people can resonate with. So Sandridge Barton, we really wanted to start making our own brand with that. And then we had Don't Feed the Ponies, that is just our minimal intervention, bit of fun range, no added sulfites, bit of fun, really. So yeah, we wanted to keep the Sharpam brand, but then we wanted to push ourselves and start making Sandridge Barton and Don't Feed the Ponies range, which has been a success. I think we've released 2 Pinot Noirs under the Sandridge Barton range, both of which won gold at WineGB Awards. And then Don't Feed the Ponies is doing really well on its own, gets a lot of traction within certain restaurants and wine shops between like the natural wine drinkers. It's just a bit of a laugh, really.
So Don't Feed the Ponies is the range with like low intervention, very small batches. Also skin contact involved.
Yeah, skin contact, cold fondos, pet nats, oxidative, like flory sort of wines. Just basically, when I worked in Mac Forbes, he's got his like Mac Forbes range, and then he's got his EB, so it's like experimental batch. So when I came back from there in 2019, I was keen to introduce something like that into our portfolio. Yeah, like we started off with a Col Fondo made from Madeleine Angevine, and we did like 250 bottles. And we made a skin contact Madeleine Angevine as well, and we made 900 bottles of that. And then I suppose the rest is history. We just started to increase production, but not to a stage where it's our main driver, but it's just another niche or another niche to our bow. But yeah, it's cool.
And I guess before you moved here, when you planned the new winery, the decision was already taken to like implement wine tourism, tours, events, and everything over here.
Yeah. So when we were at Sharpam, we had a successful shop and restaurant on that side of the river.
There was a restaurant as well. Okay.
There was a restaurant over there. So I think that started in 2013 over at Sharpam, but it was in a car park. We had like a tent basically. It was very seasonal. If it rained, the covers got cut in half. But everyone raved about it. Everyone enjoyed the experience of coming out to an English vineyard, being able to walk around a vineyard, then eat some food and drink local wine whilst they're doing it. And it's a direct customer. People get to resonate with the wine. So we're really keen to carry on that tradition of having restaurant on site, tasting area, access to the vineyards, access to our winery. So we've introduced that. We're fortunate when we moved over here that there was a lot of spare buildings going on because it used to be an old dairy farm. So we've converted 2 of those old buildings into a restaurant and then one into a tasting area, bar / art gallery. It's been a great success. Like, I think just because where we're based in rural Devon, then it's very seasonal. Mm-hmm. When the summer holidays are in, then we're in full flow. But then when October comes, then the visitor numbers definitely start to die off. But it's a great, we employ local people. It just works really well. And we get to talk about our wines and sell the story as opposed to just throwing it into the trade and have someone else telling your story. Mm-hmm. We get to meet the customers and talk to them, and then they become fans of us and our products, and then they tell their mates, and then people get drunk and have a good time.
Pretty good.
I suppose. I hope so, anyway.
And what I also have experienced on my own is that you have partnerships with local like cheesemakers, with the brewery. When did that happen? Did you bring this from Sharpam?
Yeah, so... Well, obviously with Sharpam, we had the cheese dairy on site. So that partnership's been going for forever and ever. It's older than me. And then, I think just local businesses, especially when you're in rural Devon or just in Devon in general, or just I think in most rural counties, then the partnerships forge between those producers because they need one another in order to start thriving. So we're keen to work with the local brewery, which is just up the road. We sell local candles, basically everything in our shop's local, local honey. And those partnerships are key to spreading our word, but then also spreading the word of other people. And then the more successful businesses that are run out of Devon, the more people that will start to come here. So if people can do a tour where they go to the cidery up the road and then go to the brewery and then come here in one day, then like winner. It just, everyone's benefits from that, and they're nice to work with, and it's just good vibes. Yeah, it's nicer to work with them than someone from further afield, and like if you keep the money within the local economy, then win-win.
It's I suppose just this approach on growing together. Yeah, exactly. Locally, regionally, I love it. It's the blueprint for me for the industry.
Yeah, and as I was saying earlier, it's all about like provenance. So people want to see in your restaurant that you're working with the local meat suppliers. So our cows on our land go to the butcher that's 1 mile up the road, and then he butchers it, and then it comes back into the restaurant, and then it gets eaten by people here. So like within a 5 mile radius, you could probably have a cow, glass of wine, and a beer, and some cheese.
That's pretty good.
Like, what more could you want, really? But unless you're a veggie, then obviously you don't want a cow. But you think you can have the cheese. But we forage on the land, and we want to sing about Devon, really, because it's a cool place. Mm-hmm. And our local fisherman that supplies us goes out fishing every morning and then brings us in some lobsters. Yeah, it's all cool.
Perfect segue. The Southwest is quite far away from London. Mm-hmm. How do you manage the visibility of Sandridge in the domestic market and also abroad, internationally?
So I think our presence domestically was within the Southwest fairly big. We're probably one of the most well-renowned wineries in the Southwest, alongside Langham, Camel Valley, Lime Bay. Like there is also some like really cool producers that are up and coming. So I'm not dissing anyone that I didn't mention then, but like people within the Southwest really resonate with us and really resonate with Sharpam. So we've tried to continue that brand to, because people are proud of the products. And then I think now within the UK, we're really starting to push ourselves into London and like further afield with our like in-house sales teams, so like Laura and Tom, really starting to go and visit Bristol, London, and like Edinburgh more. I think now we've got the products that people are really happy to stand behind and are really confident with, then it just makes that life a little bit easier. And people are starting to recognise us. Like we've gone all out with London Wine Fair for the last couple of years, which has really helped cement our presence. We hosted the WineGB judges down here this year, which equally is some really good recognition. We've hosted multiple other like wine events just to help broaden our scope of outreach,
visibility.
I suppose, and visibility. And now, like, we haven't really started exporting much at the moment, but we're really starting to push that as well. So going to Pro Wine last year, and we'll probably go again this year. We want to go out to these markets, but with products that we're really, really happy with. So yeah, so we've been making those products and now we're confident and we're ready to go. So I think it's just a case of putting ourselves out there a little bit more in terms of Pro Wine. Yeah, those sort of events.
Mm-hmm. What would be your favorite markets to export to and why?
Obviously Scandinavia. I think that their palate and the wines that they drink in their country are very akin to the products that we make here at Sandridge Barton. But then Australia would be great as well because it would be a cool place to go on trade trips.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of an untapped market, like the Australian wine market. They're king boozers and they don't really have much English wine over there. So, but I just want to go on holiday to Australia.
Makes sense.
So,
see some friends.
Yeah, but I think Scandinavia is probably the most accessible at the moment, but who knows?
And I guess, especially with the price point English wine has, just to several reasons and macroeconomic factors, it would probably be easier to enter markets like Scandinavia or Switzerland, where the general price level is a bit higher.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like willing to experiment as well, because Scandinavia's domestic wine market it's like getting there, but it's not overrun with Swedish and Danish and Finnish wines. So they drink foreign wines, so they're not object to tasting different stuff. Whereas I think like the French probably wouldn't be super keen on tasting English Pinot.
Probably.
But yeah, I don't know. Anywhere really, apart from a few places.
Okay. Before we go into your favorite part, winemaking, I have this tiny little game, Red or White.
Yeah.
Where it's basically about like choosing one direction and just maybe walk us through why you took that decision. And we start with a simple question: sparkling or still wine?
Still.
Why that?
I think you get so much broader scope. You can have like a light red, or then you can go into like a sherry, and then you can also go into like just a nice like oxidative white or a fruity little white number as well. So like your spectrum to pick from is so much broader. And after a while, drinking so much fizz, you get a bit bored.
I get it.
But don't get me wrong, I love fizz. But yeah, if I wanted to do a proper session, then I would want stills available to me. And I love sherry. So not to have that would be annoying.
You were lucky enough to grow some floor over here. That's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Luckily, very lucky. There's no skill involved.
That's pretty cool. Second question: Chardonnay or Madeleine Angevin? Like the classics or like the freaks?
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay. Oh, didn't expect it. Long barrel aging or young and fresh wines?
Long barrel aging.
Okay. It's like used oak or like
old oak.
Old oak.
With some really nice fruity wines that have gone in there, and then they just develop into some naughty little numbers that you just weren't expecting. Because you know what you're going to get from a stainless steel young ferment, whereas a 2-year aged barrel of Madeleine Angevine, you just don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes it's amazing, sometimes it's not that great. But I think it's the lack of consistency that fascinates me.
I like that. Pub or restaurant?
Pub.
Oh, that was fast.
There's no two ways about it.
Okay, talking about pub, because we had this experience. Guinness or Buckfast? Bucky.
Yeah.
I tried this for the first time. It was so crazy.
It's just delightful. You never know where your night's going to go if you've got Bucky to hand. So, yeah, it's just the best. Probably one of the best Devon wines going.
I mean, I've heard Tommy talking about this so often, and I was like, I have to try that. And yesterday night,
And did you like it?
it was different.
Yeah.
I was surprised by the high alcohol level, actually, because it burned a bit too much, but just the smell, like this plummy, and I don't know what else it was.
The viscosity of it.
The viscosity, yeah.
Chlorine, but whew, the hangovers are pretty gnarly. I think it's to do with the caffeine. So, but
Yeah.
yeah.
There's caffeine in it. I forgot to mention that as well. Basically, it's just a crazy...
You should read the reviews on Vivino. They are very good.
Buckfast is on Vivino.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to check that. Next question. English cheese or something international, like Camembert or something?
English cheese.
English cheese. It's so good.
It's so good.
Only few people know that.
Yeah. Really underrated, very versatile, and just delightful, to be fair. There's a really good shop in Totnes called Country Cheeses, and they just focus on English cheese, and the spectrum is 10 out of 10.
Yeah. What was my favorite? Old Winchester.
Oh, I've never had that.
And what was the other one? I like the ripe ones.
Yeah, fair.
But there's cheese with the salt crystals in it, like the one we had yesterday night, the dried cheddar. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Wine tasting for clients or cellar work?
Cellar work.
I expected that, actually. And last question, new technologies or traditional winemaking?
Traditional winemaking, but with...
Embracing the new ones.
Yeah, just like, I don't know how old is old, but yeah, I would definitely go old winemaking, 100%. It's just nicer, like the lack of additives and complicating stuff that doesn't need to be complicated.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose the fact that I wasn't taught at Plumpton, so probably say my educational knowledge is probably below what some people would get taught in the chemicals, so probably more instinctive, so I tend to lean more towards traditional methods because the science of the chemical additions are just a bit null and void to me.
Which,
and I prefer it.
And which doesn't mean you can't play around with things,
exactly.
Because traditional means everything that was made probably 60, 70 years ago, and it's so close to the things you are currently doing.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. Sustainability is a big thing, and it's a big part of your approach winemaking philosophy, generally at Sandridge Barton. What would you say are the main points of the approach?
So within the vineyard, we're definitely gearing up to change our viticultural practices. So we're changing how we manage the vineyard, like our spray regimes, our under canopy management. So getting rid of glyphosate. We haven't used insecticides for the last 10 years, including when we were at Sharpam. And just trying to be a lot more conscious of what actually goes on out there and how we can utilize old methods. So clover for under canopy management, for weed suppression, cover crops within the vineyard for the nitrogen fixing. So that's something we're really starting to gear up towards, and trying to get some experts and consultants to hold our hand through that process, which we need. And I can only see benefits from it because, as we've seen this year, the weather's been all over the shop, up and down, and then 2022 was an absolute belter of a year, but the consistency is wild, and if we can do anything to help that, then win-win. And then within the winery, like hugely important for us to be as sustainable as we can. So we've got solar panels on the roof, so all of our electricity is self-generated, and then we've got a biobubble out the back where we've got a, what are they called, where you take all the water out, a spring, got an actual spring where we take the water out of, it all gets filtered behind the winery, and then that does our whole site. So it does our restaurant tasting area, and it does our winery. So all of the water that we use on site is out of the spring. It all goes into our biobubble, which is like 100,000 litre oxygenator, basically, where oxygen gets pumped through the water and then that cleans it up, and then the top segment goes back into the stream. So we're completely self-sufficient, and we're not actually taking away from the environment for that. We've got rainwater harvesting for washing down bins and crates and stuff. And yeah, I think as well for the people, like to be sustainable for the people that we employ. So we try and pay well to try and give the money back into the economy, because ultimately it can't be sustainable without treating our staff well. Try and get them off 0-hour contracts, incentivize them to stay, and be nice to our people that buy our wine.
You're actually the first winery ever that talks about all the like different columns of sustainability, like with the team, with the business, and of course winemaking and viticulture.
Yeah.
I love it. It's for me. This is the blueprint.
Yeah.
Not only with the zero waste thing or so, but or with the spring, but just talking about the team in that way. I'm totally impressed.
Yeah.
I
But
really
you
appreciate
need to be honest. Like you need, like if you're not sustainable in that manner, like financially sustainable, then like that's probably one of the most important drivers.
How do you balance the facts following sustainability and the practical demand? Like when there is difficult years.
Yeah, I think that's probably more difficult in the vineyard, because ultimately they do need to make a crop. But that's where the skill of the vineyard manager really comes into their own, and the consultants that they lean upon. So if we do need to spray against something that is impending, then we probably will look to do it, just because, as we were talking about, like being financially sustainable, we need a crop. So if it means one spray, then yeah, we've got to do it, because if we produce no wine, then we can't employ any people. So I think the like big sustainable demands are out in the vineyard. In the winery, if it's raining loads, then we've just got more water. But then we're probably not generating any sun, so then we'll probably be taking electricity from the grid. But for us in the winery, our practices haven't really changed since 2020, and our additives rarely go. If it's a really bad year, maybe our sulfur usage will be a little bit more, but this year, with some of the disease pressure, like we're still at like 20 parts pressing, and I haven't seen any negative effects of that, so I don't think we'll change sulfur additions. I always experiment, but I think now my experiments have sort of run the course, and I'm happy with what to do during pressing in terms of sulfur additions. And that's our only real sustainable impact, I think, in the winery that I can think of.
It's more than enough.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through the process from the vineyard to the bottle in an average good year?
So January, start pruning.
You start in January already? Okay.
Well, yeah, like January, probably like end of December. It depends how cold it gets. If it gets really cold and everything starts lignifying out in the vineyard, then we can start pruning. But invariably, at the moment, our December is quite mild, so the wood doesn't really stop developing. So yeah, we probably start in January, and then vineyard stuff goes on until so then bud burst, obviously, and then
general
flowering, general veraison, and then usually I reckon our fruit starts coming in about mid-September. So we're quite a protracted harvest because we've got multiple different varieties. So we've got earlies and lates. So we've got our early varieties like Madeleine Angevine, Bacchus, and Pinot Noir Precoce. They tend to come in first in quite a hurry and in quite large quantities sometimes. So Madeleine crops quite heavily. Also, we'll start about mid-September. This year we started end of September, but I think that's just indicative of the growing season as opposed to normality. And then when that fruit comes into the winery, depending on the styles of wines that we want to make, the Madeleine Angevine we tend to crush and destem it. Sometimes we'll whole bunch it. Pinot Apricot, 30% whole bunch, 70% crushed into tanks. Then we just let it do its thing, really. We'll let it naturally settle and then let fermentation do its thing. And then sometimes, like, we're about to release a wine, new release, so we can be from grape to vine or vine to bottle in 6 weeks. But then most of the time we just let it settle on gross lees, hopefully on gross lees if the ferment's been clean, or fine lees over winter through until like March, and then we'll start looking at some blends for some of like our house styles, like our Dark Valley Reserve, which is just a Madeleine filtered blend. Yeah, we taste through barrels and tanks quite regularly, and if wines start to taste like they're ready to get lobbed into bottle, then we'll contemplate it. I hate bottling, so I don't want to do loads at once, so we just protract it throughout the summer.
What's your favorite part
of winery? Cleaning the floors.
Oh wow, that was surprising.
And cleaning presses. I love cleaning presses. That's probably my favorite.
So you dive into it.
Into it. Just jet washing the outside. Just cleaning the whole thing, scrubbing it with a brush.
Probably the first that ever mentioned this on an interview ever.
And they said, yeah, cleaning the floors is my vibe.
Paddy is like quite similar. He also likes like this with the tool.
The squeegee.
Yeah.
Oh, squeegeeing grapes. That is also super satisfying.
I love it.
Yeah, what else do I really enjoy? Tasting. That's always quite good bands. I don't enjoy tasting base wines though sometimes because they're quite high acid, and then after a while you'll be like, whoa. Yeah, cleaning presses is probably my fave.
Okay, so best is to clean. The worst part is the bottling.
100% bottling is the worst. Yeah, because it's long. It's better after 2023 for most UK vineyards. It was a really bummer vintage. So there's a lot of fruit kicking around, which meant that's a lot of bottling. So we did 60,000 bottles of DVR. Bottling machine does 1,700 bottles an hour, probably with the odd hiccup. So I reckon we're about 1,500 bottles an hour. It's just a lot of loading of bottles. And that was only one small little run. Yeah, this year's gone quickly. Put it that way.
But in a good way. High quality.
High
Are you
quality.
satisfied?
I think 2023 was like, it was a good year. I'm not, for us personally, not like a landmark year. I think the quality of the fruit has been better this year than last year for us. Given all of the adversity the growers have faced as well, I doff my hat to anyone in the vineyard this year.
Respect. Talking about the English wine industry, rapidly growing, not only the industry itself, also vineyard size. What are the expansion plans when it comes to vineyard area?
We need more space to store bottles and barrels. So I think we've got a few expansion plans in terms of building a press shed for pressing, and also a barrel store for obviously storing barrels, and then hopefully just a like finished wine store. Hopefully they'll happen over the next year or so. And then I think our vineyards, so we planted Stonyfield in 2020. That's now coming online. So it came online this year with some really nice fruit on a limestone ridge. So hopefully that will become like one of our flagship vineyards. Then we planted Reservoir Field in 2021. That's with some of like heritage varieties. So Madeleine Angevine, Bacchus and Pinot Apricot. I think we'll hopefully maybe go up more into Reservoir Field and plant a few experimental sort of stuff. So maybe some more Pinot Gris, which I think we need. And then maybe some, I don't know, Albarino or Gamay or something.
Ooh, Albarino.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Folks will be jealous.
Don't quote me on that.
No. Any fun projects you can share in future?
We're going to release a Piquette, hopefully. So that'll be released in 2025. Also got some sherry.
For anyone who's listening, what is a piquette?
A Piquette is when we press out white grapes or red grapes straight away, so there's no fermentation that's taking part on those skins. Then we put them into a tub. We soak those skins in water for 4 to 5 days. That water then takes out some of the remaining sugar from the skins. We press that out again. So then we ended up with like sugary grape water. That sounds delightful. And then we ferment that naturally. Natural alcohol with like 5%. Then I think we'll bottle it like we bottle alcohol fondo, so we'll add a little bit more sugar, let the fine lees ferment again and bottle. And then
Is it fizzy or still in the end?
I think you can release both fizzy or still. Well, I think we're going to go down the fizzy option just because it's a bit of fun. Oh, I think we'll release them in 330ml bottles. So sort of like a beer.
Easy drinking.
Yeah, it's easy drinking.
What about keg?
Smashable. Yeah, I think like a keg could actually work. It's quite a good shout. Yeah. Maybe we'll do, because we've got some key kegs floating around, so we'll probably put 20 litres in a keg, which would be great. Just a fun, different alternative.
Yeah, it sounds like an easy drinking, light after work.
Yeah, exactly.
Smash it away and drink.
Boom.
That's pretty cool.
Maybe for the pickers during the day.
Do you think the people are familiar with this kind of style? Do you have to do like...
I think there'll probably be a little bit
campaigns?
of explaining going on, but that's not my job, so I don't care.
You just do it and okay. Leave it up to Tom.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Laura.
Tom and Laura can take that on, and Alex. They hate me for this sort of stuff, though, to be fair, because sometimes we release 200 bottles of something, and they're like, "What are we supposed to do with that?" Because can't give it out to the trade, really. But I don't mind. And yeah, hopefully we're going to release a like sherry sort of flory number. I think we're going to do a Pinot.
Fortified then?
Fortified. Yeah, so we've got a distiller down the road, Cosmo, Artisan Distillery. We gave him some skins and stuff last year, and he's made us an eau de vie. So we gave him some like leesy elements, and yeah, he's made us an eau de vie. So we'll back blend in that eau de vie and try and give us like a 15% oxidized white wine, and then Pinot fortified white wine.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah.
And another local partnership.
And another local partnership.
Very cool.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we're also going to give him some juice that we're going to fortify and leave in barrel.
Ratafia.
Yeah, so it's sort of. I never heard of Ratafia. Duncan's always banged on about Pinot Charente, so I think that. But they're all much of a muchness, isn't it, between a Ratafia and a Pinot Charente? Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's a good question. No clue.
No.
I heard about it was during the interview with Tommy. 'Cause she's like
Yeah, okay.
all in.
All in. I think we'll go down the barrel aging route. So leave it in barrel for.
It's super niche, but it's an interesting product.
It's very niche. I don't know if the market's there for it, so it's a bit of a gamble, but we'll see.
But you definitely have a big playground. That's so cool.
Yeah, well, I think when the Sharpam brand was what it was, like you were pretty beholden into making those styles. Whereas now with Sandridge Barton, where I think the end goal is for all the wines to be unfined, unfiltered, no residual sugar, minimal sulfur, but like all about the grape variety or the vineyard. So it probably becomes single vineyard wines. And then the Don't Feed the Ponies just allows us to have so much fun with grapes and not to take it too seriously. Everyone can have a little brainstorm when the grapes are coming in and see what we want to do. And it's just a bit of fun. We don't try and replicate styles. We just want to like push ourselves to see what we can do and to see what the fruit can do. It's amazing how versatile and receptive grape must is to different fermentation methods or techniques.
If you want to know more about Sandridge Barton, where can they find you?
They can come to us. So we've got quite a big visitor outlet, as you touched upon. We've got a restaurant on site where we sell all our own wines, and we can do tours of the vineyards and the wineries. Or online. We've got quite a big online presence. People buy all our vinos. Or
Instagram.
Instagram.
Put the link.
Yeah, probably. Facebook. I don't know if we do, but I'm pretty sure we've got a TikTok. I try to stay
I'll
up.
find out.
Yeah, TikTok's bane in my life. And what's the other one? LinkedIn. Pretty sure we're on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Okay.
Yeah, or follow Duncan
Yeah.
on Instagram.
I will put the main links in the show notes. For the German listeners, you have some quite interesting names on some of your wines.
Yeah,
I really like them. So also to be found on the website, I guess, in the web shop.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
there international shipping, or is it just UK?
I think there is now. I don't, but
Pretty good.
we've sent some stuff off to people in different countries, like
Okay.
to taste. So like wine professionals and.
So
I
if
don't
people
see
are
a
not able
difference.
to find it on the website, just text,
Yeah.
email. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
email Tom.
Perfect.
Tom.wedger@Sandridge.
Okay. Everything. There you go,
Yeah,
Tom.
just email Tom.
Perfect. Charlie, thank you very much. That was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure
enjoyed
being
that.
so
Fun.
transparent, so honest. Super story. The blueprint for me personally.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you so much for your time.
Very
And thank you
welcome.
very much for finding the flag for English wine in Germany.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's
Need people like you.
way more people have to know about English wine. It's super good. Try it.
Definitely try.
Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. See you on Saturday with the weekly update. Where's my camera? Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
And we're done.
Sweet.